What's up guys, EDA Talk Sports here, back with another video. This time we're going to be covering the 308 Topuria versus Holloway. And guys, I always say it, but I mean it more than ever. I am excited. I'm gassed. I'm not going to lie to you. This is me. This is why I love the sport. Ilia Topuria, featherweight champion and a rightful featherweight champion. He dethroned Alex Volkanovski in a fashion that we haven't seen. Only one who's been closest is Islam, and the domination that we've seen from Ilia Topuria in the featherweight division can't be denied. He has set himself many in the division, apart from one man, Max Holloway. Max is that man that if Ilia can beat in the featherweight division, you're now looking at, do we need to have some serious conversations? Do we need to say maybe there's a champion versus champion potential matchup for him to potentially challenge Islam? It wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibilities. He's fought at that division as well previously. Obviously, it's a bigger challenge for him, no denying that. But again, we're looking at Ilia Topuria, and he has a lot of the ability that many don't have. He's proficient in his striking, very proficient. He has the power, definitely. The technique, definitely. Also the wrestling, the ability to submit an opponent as well is there, and he continues to show that. But we're going to take a look through the stats. And I've spoken about Ilia Topuria because he's one of, if not my favourite UFC fighter at the moment. I love his game. I love his personality. I've watched each and every one of his UFC fights, and since day one I've been drawn to how he performs. But I say now, if I'm talking about Max Holloway, he's probably all time one of my favourite fighters that I've watched. He's amazing. He represents fighting to me. He represents MMA to me in a lot of ways. He's had so many moments in the cage, from Whittaker fight to fighting Lamas. He's had those moments which define a real warrior, and there's a reason why he is the BMF champion. Side note, I think the BMF championship should be on the line. I think it should be. If you're the baddest man in the planet, or you're the BMF, if you're the BMF champion, you should be prepared to fight anybody, especially someone that you're in the same division as. I think that championship should represent, I think I'm the baddest person in the UFC, and I will fight anybody anywhere. And if they beat me, they are now the BMF champion. That rule should have followed when Kamaru Usman beat Jorge Masvidal, and he should have been the BMF champion. I believe it was. So, bit of a side note, but I think both should be on the line. But that's not really what's important. What is important is that the featherweight championship is on the line. Ilia Topuria again has dominated every other opponent that's come his way. Max has also, he's had his ups and downs earlier in his career, but he's found his groove, continues to show his level. Against Justin Gaethje, it was a complete domination. He pretty much won every round and could have gone forward. From Ilia's perspective as well, we've spoken about the win against Alex Volkanovski, crowning himself as champion, one that he deserved. We also need to talk about the win that he got against Josh Emmett. 5-rounder, yes, but domination, absolute domination. He left Emmett a bloody mess, submitted Bryce Mitchell, which is, again, should be no easy feat. The amazing knockout of Jai Herbert, and the win that he got against Ryan Hall, which was a massive win back when it happened, 3 years ago, when you think about it, with Ryan Hall being so tricky and a potential problem, and Ilia dealt with him in the best way he could. And so Ilia's shown his domination in the UFC. Max as well, we know Max is one of the best featherweights that has touched the UFC. He has a resume like no other. He has dominated everybody apart from Alex Volkanovski. Will he continue to add another name to his list? We're gonna see. Max is someone who puts the pressure on no other. Ilia will need to deal with that. We know the stats that Max has in terms of his proficiency with his striking, what he did to a number of opponents, and he will continue to do that. I think Gaethje was another one who suffered. Yes, he won't be the last one. And so he's ran through so many people in recent history. The Korean Zombie, Arnold Allen, Yair Rodriguez, obviously lost to Volkanovski 3 times, and that's damaging to his legacy, yes. But if he can get the win over Ilia Topuria, he has a stake to potentially fight Volkanovski again. Will he want to do that? It's yet to be seen. Been a lot of back and forth between the two before we go into the stats. I mean, that fiery head-to-head that they had was explosive, to say the least. And I think I saw a little bit of Max probably getting irritated and annoyed by Ilia potentially, and the way he probably operates to a degree. Will that play into the fight? Yet to be determined. Two great fighters. I think whatever will happen, regardless of any verbal altercations. Ilia said that he wants to throw down in the first 10 seconds. Middle of the ring, he's going to point and say, I want to throw down. Will he do that? Yes or no? Should he do that? Yes or no? That's the question. I think he backs his power. He doesn't think that Max will knock him out. And that's confidence, arrogance, maybe what a young champion needs to have to get to the position that he is. Looking at the stats, not much of a differential between height. Two fighters who rely on their technical ability, as we've already mentioned. Similar reach. Again, Max has that crazy output. He strikes. He's outstruck some of the best, and he will continue to. Ilia has high output in his own right. Backs it with a lot of power. Potentially, I think about it sometimes. He swings because he knows he has the power, but yet you look at the strike accuracy, it's fairly even. Quite surprising to me, to be honest with you, that Max isn't a little bit higher in that regard. In terms of the takedown, we've spoken about it. If things get messy, I knew Ilia to be very proficient in his ground game, be someone who can dominate the game and win like that very easily. And if he decides to do it and take Max down, he could easily submit him. He has that ability, he has that quality. Max wants to dominate. Max needs to put on the pressure. Max needs to show his quality as he has many times over. Where am I going with this fight? I love both guys. Max is a legend. I think he can easily win. What I say easily, he has the ability to win, and that should not be doubted. But I'm going with Ilia Topuria. I think he's the truth. I may be wrong, and I can come back here and we can discuss how much of a fool I was, but I really do think he is the truth. I think he's the one pure blend of striking, grappling, submissions, takedowns. He has it all. He can do a little bit of everything. A little bit diminutive, yes, but the power he's packing at his size, the technical ability that he has to take the fight anywhere, I think can't be disregarded. And I'm going with Ilia, and it's heartbreaking. But if Max does pull it out, I would be pleased. None the happier, to be honest with you. I love Max. I would love to see him at the top after all that he's done. He's cleaned out everybody else in the division. Sad for some of the contenders, but if you can't beat Max Holloway, you're not that guy. You're not that guy. He's not even gatekeeping. He is the featherweight division. He's beaten the past. He's beaten the present, and he's beaten some of the future as well. He's done it all. Wins against Jose Aldo. He's continuously shown himself to be one of the greatest featherweights. The streak he went on was one that was monumental. And I think he will continue to take scalps, deliver high quality fights. But I think Ilia just has that complete skill set, and I'm going with Ilia Topuria. I'm going with Ilia Topuria winning so many ways. I'm going to go by submission, but see, it could be a striking feast. We could be in for a treat. Hard fight to call, but yeah, I had to go with my instincts. Next fight, we're going to go with Whittaker versus Chimaev, a massive, massive fight. Robert Whittaker back on our TV screens, and don't we love to see it again? Someone who is a quality fighter. I mean, we're blessed in the co-main and the main of having four amazing fighters. Robert Whittaker, who has come off his most latest victory, and it was a victory where he was dominant. I know there was a change of opponent, with Chimaev having to drop out. It wasn't ideal. You have to beat who's in front of you, and it wasn't an easy opponent, to say the least. Coupling that with the win he had against Costa, a dominating unanimous decision, and I guess if you ask Costa, it was dubious. I think Whittaker did win it 2-1, and the late onslaught from Costa was late in that fact. The loss against Duplessis is the one that will obviously stand out. It wasn't good, let's be honest. It wasn't good, and it changes your dynamic and your opinion of Robert Whittaker. But when you see him against everybody else, he is who he says he is, and it's going to be very interesting against Chimaev. I have a vision of how Robert Whittaker is going to take this on. He's going to be very cautious. He's going to keep Chimaev at a distance as best as he can. He's going to try and make sure that tank is well and truly tested. But early on, he's not going to let Chimaev get into his rhythm, and that's what Chimaev needs to do if he wants to progress. It's been an interesting time for him. Hasn't fought since over a year ago, essentially, when he beat Kamaru Usman, a victory which is, for me, Kamaru should have put the pressure on a lot more. Again, 3 rounds. Chimaev is known to drop off the pace a little bit, and that's a perfect time for you to take advantage. Don't think he did, but you're looking at someone who's been perfect in the UFC, has dominated each and every one of his opponents, whether by decision or by submission or KO. And again, another fighter that I've watched each and every one of his UFC fights. But what are we going to get? It's been over a year. Last time he fought more than once a year was in 2022. Each and every year he's fought one time, that we can see in his previous fight history, and I'm sure 2020 he probably did fight twice or a multitude of times because he was running through everybody. But that's 4 years ago, and we need to continuously see him develop. He should be at the title already with the trajectory that he was on. Illness obviously impacts that, but yeah, we'll see with Chimaev what he can pull out when he goes forward. Again, it's Chimaev needs to get him early. I think he's going to have to get Whittaker early. He's going to have to dominate him early. Can he do that throughout 3 rounds? I don't think so. Will Whittaker be able to withstand the early pressure? Potentially. It's a tough one. I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker. I may regret it. Oh, Whittaker to take Chimaev. It's a big call. I think that layoff, I think he's going to gas. I think Robert Whittaker is smart. He's going to find ways to make sure he evades it as best as possible. And I think I've got to go for Whittaker on vibes and vibes alone. But looking at strike accuracy, Chimaev obviously has a high strike accuracy. Gets people down to the ground, smashes them. It's what he does. Takedown accuracy, again, very, very high. And his average takedowns are high. His submissions, again, exceedingly high. He gets you down to the ground. He'll ground and pound you. He'll submit you. He'll either knock you out or do it enough times to where he wins by points. And so that's the question for Robert Whittaker. Can he avoid that? Can he take the fight into the deep waters? And when he takes it to the deep waters, can he drag Chimaev down to where he doesn't want to be? Because that's what Kamaru Usman did not do. And that's the point where Whittaker, being that pure middleweight, will need to take Chimaev to that ground. So I'm going with Whittaker. Risky, I know, guys, but hang in with me. Ankalaev versus Rakic. Ankalaev, who, for all intents purposes, if he wins this, he should be the next challenger for the light heavyweight champion. Alex Pereira should be next up for him. This man is, what can you say? He's been on a streak that has not been the best in terms of momentum, but in terms of what he's done, very, very impressive. The one defeat I believe he has was against Paul Craig. Can you imagine it? Wrestle heavy style, as we know, is proficient with his hands more than we've seen previously from a lot of fighters from that region, but he's very proficient with his hands. Tries to blend in his striking where possible, but if it gets even a little bit dicey, he's taking you down to the ground. No games. No games at all. Victory against Tony Walker was one that was impressive. The no contest was, it's annoying to say the least. There was a lot of tension between the two, complaining that it was dirty or someone was exaggerating. Wasn't great. The draw against Blachowicz as well just continues to drain the momentum from Ankalaev. Before then, the wins against Diego Santos and Anthony Smith were things to make note of, yes, but he's going to have to pick up his momentum, and a win against Rakic would be absolutely impressive. Rakic, who we know lost to Prochazka in a fight that was, you know, competitive to a degree. Once you got his hands on him and found his range and you withstood enough pressure to get his shots off, win was secure. Obviously, the loss again to Blachowicz, there was a lengthy layoff between the two due to injuries. Rakic is proficient. He is probably not the most exciting fighter, but functional and can cause a problem for anybody. But I'm going to go with Ankalaev here. I'm not even going to kill you guys with the stats. We'll take a quick look through. Again, takedown percentage, Ankalaev not exceedingly high, but he will take you down if needs be, and he will hold you there if he gets the opportunity to. Rakic will probably like to keep the fight standing, use his reach and his range, and we'll see how it goes. But Ankalaev will hope to win, and that will take him to a championship fight. Leon Murphy versus Dan Ige. Leon Murphy is another person that I really enjoy watching, obviously being from England. I've seen a lot of his fights. Obviously, when he fights in the UK, higher up on the card, you're more likely to see it. Even when he's fought in the Apex, etc., he's always been an entertaining fight. He'll probably try and get you out if possible, but if not, it will probably be a dominating victory. This is his biggest challenge to date. As mentioned, biggest challenge to date is Dan Ige. The win against Edson Barbosa was his best landmark victory. Edson Barbosa obviously is a legend, but has kind of fallen off a little bit in terms of the rankings. Dan Ige gives Leon Murphy the best chance to climb those rankings. The victory against Holloway as well was a impressive one. He's not the easiest fight as well. And so in terms of climbing the rankings, Edson Barbosa was a massive scalp. Dan Ige would be another bigger one. Dan Ige, who we know steps foot into the ring last minute notice against Diego Lopez. Not an easy feat, not an easy opponent. Put in a good shift, however, quite clear that it was Lopez's night. But Dan Ige is someone who's had success in the division. He's had his ups and downs. Win against Andre Philly is one to probably take note of in the recent stretch. But he's going to need to come up against Leon Murphy and put his stamp on this. It's not enough just to come in last minute and get the favour of the UFC. You need to continuously deliver in terms of victories. And it's going to be really interesting. Murphy has a slightly higher output compared to Ige. And also in terms of his accuracy, hits at nearly 10% higher, which is something to really take note of. That accuracy from Murphy, he is accurate for sure. And I'll say a little bit of a sniper. Can also take his opponents down, not afraid to do that at all. And again, he's a blend. He can do a bit of both. I think more of a striker than a wrestler, but that striking is one that he may not knock you out each and every time, but he will dominate. And it will put you off what you were trying to do because he's going to continuously catch you. So I'm going with Leroy Murphy, and I think he will get the victory. Ige and Magomedov, again, we've covered his previous fights. He coming to the UFC undefeated, has continued undefeated, and it will be very interesting to see how he goes on. This isn't a fight I'm necessarily fully invested in. I think Ige probably will be the one that steps out with the victory, but we shall see. It seems like they're both got quite a high output. It could be a slugfest. It could be a sleeper. I may be sleeping on it myself, but naturally I'm going to go with Ige just due to his domination. And that's probably all the fights on the main card. We're just going to cover the prelims now. Jeff Neal versus Rafael dos Anjos, two legends of the division. He has obviously got an extensive history, and this is probably not where he wants to be. He wants the biggest fights ever, but right now this is your biggest fight. Jeff Neal is somebody who hasn't had the easiest of it lately, and so this will be two legends coming together to hopefully produce a banger before we get into the main card. So with this fight, I'm probably going to go who's got more tread on their tires. I'm not sure. I would probably say Jeff Neal should have more tread on his tires. Something just saying RDA is going to pull out of the bag, so I'm going to go with RDA. If RDA gets knocked out, apologies, but I'm going to go with RDA there. And I think we're just going to cover one more fight. Kenneth Nzechukwu versus Chris Barnett. Two fighters who, I guess, Chris Barnett we haven't seen in over 2 years. I was wondering why. I know why. It's not the best circumstances. Lost his wife, looking after his two young children. Obviously experienced a lot of things, including hurricanes as well. And it's always lovely to see Chris Barnett on the prelims because he's such a character. And he always produces pretty entertaining fights. So not seeing him and now seeing him is a pleasure. So wishing him all the best in this fight. And Nzechukwu, again, I think from his standpoint, it's been middling. He was at the light heavyweight division, wins here and there, losses here and there, no consistency, has moved up to the heavyweight division. Should have a profile that should be proficient, long, lengthy. I don't think he's as technical as a striker as he should be. I don't think any heavyweight would necessarily fear his striking. They just want to get their hands on him and probably get close in by. And I think that weight differential and that natural ability to potentially be at that division will be interesting. I'm probably going to go with Chris Barnett, to be honest with you. And Nzechukwu hasn't really impressed me with his latest performances. Massive layoff, I know. I'm going with Chris Barnett, even if it is for vibes. I think that's the main fights I wanted to cover, guys. Make sure to leave your comments and opinions. Who have you got, Ilia or Max? I'm going with Ilia, guys. Let me know what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And guys, I'll catch you soon. Peace.